Hey everyone, it is Ian and Kimberly Rhodes, excited to bring to you our limited series called Impact.
We are so fortunate to be able to speak to some really incredible people locally here in Los Angeles and throughout the nation, different thought leaders, all with different professions.
Yeah, and we're asking them those tough questions during COVID-19, just what is challenging them? How are those challenges having them step up in their businesses and personal lives to pivot for success and give you tips and tricks?
We hope you enjoy today's interview.
All right. As part of our Impact series, we have friends,
Yes.
past clients, and it's so exciting to have both Rick and Liz together in separate rooms in their house, but together in two windows on Zoom. I'm introducing Rick and Liz, and I'm going to just let you guys run with it, introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, what you do, and probably why we are having you on this Zoom call to share your story and experience.
Okay, should I start?
Yeah, please.
Okay, well, I'm a hospitalist, so I'm board certified in internal medicine, but I take care of admitted patients, patients admitted into the hospital. I admit them through the ER. I take care of them while they're inpatients, and then I discharge them, and then they go back to the care of their primary care doctor. So I work
And
in
this
a,
is at a local, large Los Angeles hospital.
yes, indeed.
Okay. Rick, your turn.
Hey, I'm a photographer, and I'll just say that for those of you who don't know what a hospitalist is an internal medicine doctor for the lay person. But I'm a photographer, and I specialize in architectural and interiors photography, as well as fine art landscapes.
Perfect. And I mentioned that you're in two separate rooms in the house. So let's just start off on how and why and how that's going.
Well, so as a hospitalist, I'm now seeing a lot of patients afflicted with COVID or being ruled out by COVID. It started about, first week of March that they started coming to our hospital. And so there's, a lot of fear of myself getting it or bringing it home. And as you might know, people can be asymptomatic, so they may not have any symptoms for a few days when they're first infected, and they can just, shed a lot of virus at that time. I think your highest rate of shedding is at the beginning. And so I didn't want to infect Rick, and I didn't want to infect Jake, and
Your
so
dog.
my dog, sorry. And so we've segregated ourselves.
And so have you guys been basically living separately within your house this whole time?
Pretty much. I mean, I'm in the master bedroom. Thank you for letting me have it. And Rick's in the guest room, and he's in the guest bathroom. We share a living space in the living room, but I have my couch, and his couch is 6 feet away.
Wow. Okay. And there are obvious challenges that come with that. Are there any positives that come with that?
Rick's done all the cooking.
Oh, wow.
That's a positive for me.
Yeah, that's right. We'll get to Rick in a second, but that's great. Okay. Well, you guys, I mean, Liz, you would take on a lot of the cooking, but Rick would get in there too, from time to time, right, Rick?
Yeah, I enjoyed cooking. I think I did a lot more when we were beginning our relationship, and then gradually, Liz got into cooking, and now we have this beautiful kitchen that we love to use, and she sort of grew into it and loved making all kinds of stuff. So it's unfortunate now that she's basically kind of
Banned
just being
from the
served,
kitchen.
but
Just
To put it bluntly.
just being
Yeah.
served. Okay. Well, all right. So then, Rick, you've had to step up the recipes then to change it up.
Yeah, I've been going pretty deep into the old internet, sort of rabbit hole of recipes. But yeah, it's been interesting because we want to essentially use all our food that we can use before we have to go shopping again. So trying to find something that's, sort of tasty and available in our pantry is always a challenge, but thank God for the internet on that end. Makes it a lot easier, and get to try out new stuff that you probably, wouldn't have tried in in the first place. So
Yeah, we had shepherd's pie the other night from scratch.
That's good.
One we haven't tried yet.
We have not tried that yet. Put that on.
Bad timing for a 95.
Yeah.
Day, but still tasted good.
We're due to go to the grocery store, and we're like, how about some salads?
Anything cold.
Ice.
Ice maker broke.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not good. All right. So, well, we heard Liz say that you're doing the cooking, Rick. What about on your end? What's the any benefits, positives from the segregation?
Well, I was just looking at your questions, but I was going to say, obviously, one of the main impacts for me is that I'm not an essential service as a photographer, so I had to essentially, push off any client work that was going to happen in March, and with no idea of when that's going to resume. So I think, and if it's okay, I was just going to go into the fact that I was looking for ways of staying creative and trying to help Liz, obviously. And I started a webpage where I sell my fine art prints and print them at home, because I don't have to go outsource the printing, and donate 80% of those proceeds to a couple different PPE donation organizations that are helping out providing masks and whatnot for first responders and doctors and whatnot. So that was one thing that I was able to kind of at least keep myself engaged and helpful and productive. So.
And we're going to put the link to that along with this interview.
Cool. Thank you.
We're having. And Liz, that being said, is that, and Rick, you're utilizing that and helping. I mean, Liz, what were some of those challenges with getting that equipment that you experienced from beginning of March to beginning of April, and now we're going to the end of April?
I mean, there have been a lot of challenges, and luckily I'm in a big hospital, and so my organization is working really hard to try to buy PPE from China and from the big manufacturers, but they're coming up against challenges too, because the federal government is trying to buy them up, and I think we have some of our orders confiscated. So we've gotten creative. I mean, we're reusing our N95s. Just I could put mine in a paper bag and let it sit for 7 days and hope the virus dies off by then. And then last week I think got a UV sterilizing machine. Actually, I didn't quite look into the sanitizing process, but they were talking about starting to re-sanitize our N95s. Of course, we have to put our names on them because it's gross getting someone else's mask back. But they can be reprocessed up to 2 times, so we can get 3 uses out of 1 mask.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we've also gotten donations from our community, and a friend of mine has a GoFundMe page for donations for PPE. So they've given us face shields and surgical masks and gloves and hand sanitizers. So it's been really, overwhelming, the support that we've gotten from friends and strangers, and our neighbors also have been giving me their N95 masks that they found in their garages. So I'm very grateful for that.
Wow. Very good. And across the house, Rick is, that's great. Rick, putting proceeds, 80% goes towards buying that equipment, right?
Yeah, there's a couple companies. There's one in Frogtown that actually manufactures them, and they also provide obviously jobs for people to manufacture the masks. And they're going out to a wide range of people in the first responder, everything from the folks at the local supermarket to paramedics to hospitals, as well as donating some of the funds to fight COVID at NYU, because I have roots to New York. So NYU Langone Health is another source of donations. So
that's great.
And in kind of going down kind of what we were talking about in terms of what people may want to hear from this, I mean, is there, these are positives that are coming out of this, where people are coming to the help and all of that to get this protective wear. I mean, Liz, do you, in kind of not giving medical advice, is there anything that you want to tell people watching this? Here we are, we're coming up on the end of April, and I know everyone is so anxious as the warm weather is here to get back out there or take a drive and step out of their car and go somewhere. And, you know, people are feeling that pent up and the beautiful weather. What do you have to say to those feelings that we're all naturally having?
I mean, first of all, I want to say thank you to California, and thank you for our governor to shut down the state when we did, because I think that mitigated a lot of the spread. And you know, in the beginning, we always thought we were going to be 2 weeks behind New York, and we see how they turned out. And we really much wanted to avoid that kind of surge and that kind of overcapacity. And, you know, our hospital was working really hard to get us up to speed. Should we hit that surge, we're retraining doctors that aren't hospitalists to do hospitalist work. And we've bought army tents to extend our ER into the parking lot if the surge hit us. We're, you know, so we're getting prepared, and we've watched the numbers every day, or actually every week, and then eventually things just slowed down. So I think, you know, we did flatten the curve.
Right.
And I think that's because of all our social distancing efforts.
Right.
And I know it's really warm and beautiful outside, and people are getting cabin fever, but, you know, I would say let's not be in a hurry to fully reopen everything, just because I think we might be looking at, you know, a second surge or second spike. I mean, that said, we do have a lot of cases. I think LA has like 12,000 cases. And so I'd say let's still be careful. I mean, I think overall, if you're going out to a well-ventilated place, like you know, the beach, if they ever open it, it should be okay if you keep your distance. I think we shouldn't shake hands anymore, because you don't know who might be sick. And I think we should have, you know, OCD level hand washing. You know, all the time. When you go out to the store, anywhere public, you're touching surfaces, come back and wash your hands. Try not to touch your face. If your eye itches, wash your hands before you touch your eyes, or pick your nose, or suck your thumb. And just wash. And this is what I learned from the CDC website, how to wash your hands. So they say 20 seconds, but you want to wash all the surfaces. So you want to get, you know, the palms, and everyone does that, but then you want to get the backs of your hands, and then like all the way up your fingers, and then your thumbs, and then your fingertips.
See, this is a good tutorial.
No, that's great.
And then your wrists.
Yeah.
How many people don't wash their wrists?
Miss your wrists,
So that's something new I learned during this pandemic, and all the OCD level hand washing and donning and doffing that we've been doing.
Right. Yeah.
Well, then it's important for people to know that there are a ton of cases out there, but it is great that the preparation that was taken now, and we've seen the flattening of a curve, that at least, you know, the preparation that was taken to those extremities will be there if a second surge occurs, to be able to flatten that curve immediately again. So
Hoping.
that is, I guess, a benefit out of the preparation that took place.
And amazingly, I haven't gotten sick. I've been at this thing for 6 weeks.
That's great.
Have there been other doctors that have had to really step back and?
I mean, a lot of our doctors in the outpatient setting, they've all turned to telephone appointments when they can.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've canceled all our elective surgeries except for the emergency surgeries and cancer surgeries, so that we can, you know, free up their gowns and their ventilators and their personal protective equipment for the hospital.
Right.
And so I think we've lessened the exposure of, you know, patients to doctors. And then we're actually not letting any visitors come to the hospital. And I think a lot of hospitals are doing that too. So, I mean, unless you're a dying patient, you don't get a visitor. So with that, we've really, you know, minimized our exposure. And to that end, in the last 6 weeks, I think only 4 doctors have gotten sick.
Wow.
That is great.
And these have all been frontline doctors, and some of them have been able to come back to work. They, stayed home while they were sick, got better, and are working again.
Good. Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of forget about that and being conscious of, not wanting to expose anyone, because should they have to go into the hospital, I mean, think about it. You can't have any visitor. No, I mean, other than maybe through an iPad in some ways, I guess, through FaceTime. But, those are the really hard stories to hear, for sure.
They are. So people are dying alone, which is really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that is heartbreaking. And Rick, I'm going back. I'm going to shoot back over to you in terms of, because we've had our ups and downs in real estate in being essential, right? And we've had different levels come out and be taken away and then come back. And I know we were texting last week about, hey, can I be doing photography and can I be going into places? And I was kind of giving you what our legal and broker were telling us about LA County, LA City, and it's fluctuated from vacant properties to be able to enter to owner occupied properties and having the proper disclosure that actually has to be signed by
prior to anybody entering the property.
Yeah.
Even photographers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So have you had any discussions with any of your clients about stepping back, moving forward, or?
Yeah, in the beginning, I had 2 interior designers that I was going to shoot for, and we had sort of scheduled the shoot and had the discussion and went and looked at the place. And as things developed, and I spoke to Liz, I sort of brought up to them that my significant other is a doctor who is constantly being exposed at her job. So I don't know if I've been exposed. I don't know if I'm asymptomatic. I wanted to let them know that maybe this could be something that we would postpone, and being in a small space with somebody and being sort of intimate and trying to set up shots and whatnot might not be the safest thing to do or the wisest choice. So we kind of made that decision to sort of push this off until a time when things have sort of settled down and we understood it and perhaps have a better idea of how this virus was going to play out. And it has sort of gradually gotten more serious as far as the limitations of a lot of businesses. So I think we were ahead of the curve because of Liz's experience and what I had learned from her at work. So I was concerned, and we sort of separated our life pretty quickly just to be safe. And I think our household is probably a little bit different than most, in that a lot of people are sort of, they know that they haven't been exposed and they've been together for a couple of weeks at least. Right. Whereas our COVID clock kind of resets every time she has a shift.
Right.
So we just don't know. So it's, we wear the masks, wash the hands, disinfect, stay away from our neighbors, as much as they've been super helpful and super giving and brought us food and asked us if they can pick up supermarket items for us. It's been, I think, one of the main positives is seeing the community kind of come together with this kind of common experience that we're having. And I think it happens a lot when there's crises. People kind of pull together, and it's nice to see that that's still possible in a city like Los Angeles. It's so big and doesn't have that. A lot of people don't associate that with Los Angeles.
Right. Is there, Liz, Rick, is there any known timeline on which you don't think you're going to have to segregate, or is this just going to?
I feel like if and when they have a vaccine, that might be a year and a half in the making, if it happens, or if the both of us get sick.
Right.
But hopefully, hopefully not at the same time.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I think a little bit of that decision will also help be easier to make if there's treatment, if there's some way to mitigate some of the symptoms in that process. And again, there's, obviously no magic bullet, but if you knew that there was some way to mitigate it, it might be a little easier to move back into.
Some people have been, I've noticed it's in the news, and we've had actually some people that we know that have actually taken like antibody tests. And is there anything to speak of, Liz or Rick, about like having an antibody test, or how that, what's known about that, not known about that? Because I know some people are going, hey, I was sick maybe in December, January. Could that have been it? And what you think that's going to entail, people opening the economy back up and getting back out there. Is that a test people should take?
Well, I think right now this is a novel virus. So, it's not like we have patterns and knowledge about it. And so we don't really know how long those antibodies last. Like if it confers you some immunity for a few months, or if it gives you immunity for a year.
Right.
And then I think, out of Korea and China, people have gotten like reinfected, even though they've had the virus or they've had the infection. So, I think we need to study this more. And I don't think it's a time to become cavalier if you have the antibodies. But then, on the other hand, I also think that like the people who got really sick and were admitted in the ICU, like they probably have more antibodies. And so I think those are the guys that they are seeking to use their serum, their plasma, to treat really sick people. But I think this is happening more in New York just because they've had such higher prevalence of the illness. And that's the other thing, is people are telling us, or our experts are telling us, that antibody tests become more accurate when you have a higher prevalence of the illness within the population. So I think we may not be there yet, but I think New York is, and so they're using the antibody tests and also the serum as possible treatment for the really sick people, and then maybe prophylaxis, like a little bit prophylaxis for the healthcare workers.
Wow.
So much unknown.
Yeah.
So much day to day, hour by hour. And well, I appreciate you very much taking the time and effort on your last day off before going back, Liz. Thank you so much. And Rick, thank you for taking the time as well, and
for doing what you're doing with your photography. And we're absolutely going to link this up with where everyone can find those and what they can do to get in touch with you.
Any thoughts you want to leave us with?
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Wash your hands.
Even if you wear gloves, wash your hands.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people don't think, like, I know I've been using like more of like a cloth type when we will go into a listing or something, and that can go through the cloth, right? I assume.
I kind of think that gloves are not as protective as you think if you're wearing them out in the public, because you're wearing the glove. It's not like you get the virus through your hands. You get the virus through your eyes and your mucous membrane. So people are wearing the gloves and they're touching things, and then they're touching their phone, and
Or they take the glove off from the end like that, and they're touching the glove.
Yeah, and so the way to take off gloves is like, you have a dirty side and the inside is clean side. So when you're wearing both gloves, you touch the outside of it, hook the edge with your gloved hand, peel it off inside out, and then now you have a naked hand, stick it on the inside of the glove and hook it off and turn it inside out and envelop the other glove and throw it away and wash your hands. So that's the right way to do it. But like, don't touch your phone and touch your face.
Right.
I would say our steering wheel, our phones, our hands are the cleanest they've ever been.
Right. Phones are definitely getting a lot cleaner.
The phones, when you think about sometimes how often we would try to clean our phones almost every day, we would do that, after being out and about. But now it's like, 4 times a day.
It's excessive, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and steering wheels too. I've been doing alcohol wipes on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And the stick shift and like all the buttons that I've.
The radio buttons.
Yeah, but then the next day when I get in my car, it smells like I've been drinking in there. And
that's funny.
Oh, we know you're not. It's fine. It's
okay, cool.
Well, thank you so much.
I was just going to say, just, as much as this is difficult for everybody, and this is like one of those things that, it's a sacrifice for a lot of folks. I think, the longer we push it off, and try to do something too quick like reopen, it's just going to extend that period of lockdowns and quarantines. So, I mean, if you can do it, stay strong, and we'll get out of this at some point.
100%.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes.
Thank you,
Rick.
Liz.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Very well, and thank you so much for all you're doing.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for getting us such a beautiful house to hang out in on this.
Yes, when this is all over.
Multi-level. All right.
See you guys later.